In this episode, we are answering the question that plagues so many of you, and I know how frustrating it can feel. And that question is, why am I still struggling with food after doing so much work? Maybe you listen to the podcast, you read the books, you follow the social media content, you've done the work over and over again, and still it feels like I'm not where I want to be. And I don't know why. When I finally understood the reason why I was feeling so stuck in certain areas in my life, it was like a light bulb went off in my mind and everything became so much clearer. And then I knew exactly what I needed to change. So I am so excited to share that with you in this episode. Let's get into it. Welcome to the Live Unrestricted podcast, a show where you'll learn how to heal your relationship with food and your body so that you can focus your time and energy on more important things like your personal growth. I'm your host, Sabrina Magna, food freedom coach, and my mission is to help make your life happier and healthier without stress, overwhelm, or guilt about food. If you love the show, please do go out and share it. And if you're looking for support with your relationship with food, details about my programs are in the show notes. Thanks for spending time with me today. Now let's jump in. Welcome back to the show, my friend. I am so happy to be back behind the mic, and I have so many ideas that have been coming to me in the past couple of days. There's something about having a break over the holidays. Luke and I were talking about this yesterday. I was like, man, have you been feeling just like a sense of feeling refreshed and just feeling more excited about life? And he was like, yeah. And we were both laughing of like, there must be something to this break thing that people talk about. So yes, there is definitely something about giving yourself a break and letting your mind rest. And I am just really excited about everything there is to come in 2026. I'm looking at all of these different ways that I can support you more, that I can give you more resources. And I know that we have a lot of new listeners to the show. So everyone who is new to the Live Unrestricted family, welcome. I cannot tell you how happy I am that you are here. To everyone who is sending the podcast to people in your life, to women who you want to see thriving in their relationship with food, thank you so much. Please keep sharing. It means the world to me, and it helps to get this really important information in the ears of the people who need it the most. Now, I want to get right into today's topic because, oh boy, we've got some stuff to cover. I'm going to make the assumption here that you want to create a different reality around food and your body image and the way that you feel about yourself, maybe exercise this year. I think that's a pretty safe assumption to make. You're probably listening to this podcast because you want to finally just become a normal eater. And I don't love using that word, quote unquote, normal, but I know that when I was struggling with my relationship with food, that's what I wanted. I wanted to feel normal around food. I wanted to not think about it all the time. I wanted it to feel easy. I wanted to be able to eat and leave food on my plate. And so chances are that that is why you are listening to this podcast. You want eating to feel easy. And we also have to take into account the reality that in January, there is this like newfound motivation to make our goals happen. I'm even feeling it. I'm really excited for 2026. And I really feel deep in my soul that these goals that I've been working on for 5 years, you guys, I just want to pause here and say that there are certain goals in my life that I have been working on for over 5 years that have not yet come to fruition. So I think it's really important to also just remind you that sometimes things do take time. And as long as you remember why you are doing something, why it's important to you, you do not give up and you keep reminding yourself of the progress that you're making along the way. I may not have achieved that goal yet, but the person I have become in the process is a completely different person than I was 5 years ago. So I just want to say this. There's likely a part of you that is like, this year, I am committed to creating something different in my reality around food. And if you're anything like me, you have probably been working on this for a very long time. I am talking to those of you who listen to this podcast. Maybe you listen to other podcasts, you read the books, you journal, you've probably done diet after diet. And it feels, when you're struggling with food, it feels like it is this one thing that is looming over your head, this like black cloud that follows you everywhere, that you feel like, if I could just solve this one problem, if I could just feel normal around food, my life would drastically improve. And the reality is that it will. I say this all the time, that my life turned directions when I stopped struggling with eating. It really does give you so much of your time and energy and brain space back, so that you can put that energy, that finite energy that we have, towards things that matter most to us. So going back to this idea that you want to create a different reality with food this year, and you've been working on it, and you've been trying, and you've been committed to making a change for maybe 1 year, 5 years, couple of decades. And if it's a couple of decades, there's no shame there. I think that just shows how committed you are to putting an end to this battle with food. And you might feel like you haven't achieved that goal yet. And that can be really frustrating. And what can start to happen is we develop these ideas about our own capabilities. I must be broken. This must not be meant for me. There must be something wrong with me. What are other people doing? What do other people have that I don't have? What do other people know that I don't know? What have they learned that I like? What is the secret that I do not know yet? And there tends to be this really debilitating belief that, what if I'm not meant to have a healthy relationship with food? That's the quiet part that we don't really want to say out loud, but I think it's important to just recognize the internal experience that we feel when we've been working on a goal for so long and we haven't achieved it yet. There's this sense of exhaustion and hopelessness that starts to set in. All of that I've experienced before, so it's normal. And I also want to make sure that I highlight that just because you think something, just because you feel something, just because you haven't achieved something yet, it doesn't mean you never will. And just because you believe that you're broken or there's something wrong with you, it doesn't mean that it's true. What we tend to do is we use our past to predict our future, right? So if I use the example of certain goals that I've had for the past 5 years that I have worked my butt off to try to achieve, and I haven't achieved it yet, I will not lie to you and say that there weren't moments where I thought, well, I have tried so many times before. I have put so much effort. I have believed in the goal. I have put my energy behind it, and I didn't achieve it. And so as a way to protect ourselves, we start to lose belief in ourselves because we don't want to be disappointed. And so we just think, well, if I haven't been able to do it yet, then maybe I never will be. And there is a lot of danger in using your past to predict your future, because you are where your attention is. Okay, so I'm going to repeat that again. You are where your attention is. So if your attention is on the past, if your attention is on the failures and the mistakes and all of those times where you didn't achieve the thing that you wanted to achieve, and all of those times where you overate or you fell off the wagon or you made progress, but then you kind of reverted back to old habits, if that's where your attention is, then you are bringing the past into the present moment, right? Because you are where your attention is. And so your attention and your energy is focused on the past, and you're bringing that into the present moment. And we know that our future is created from the person that we are being, right? If you want to create a different future, you have to change as a person. But if you are trying to create a different future by focusing on your past, what do you think is going to happen? You are just going to create more of your past. So this is the notion. What I'm about to say is the idea, is the concept that I want you to write down. I want you to remember, because this is going to help you understand why, no matter how many things you've tried, how much work you've been putting in, and I know that you have been putting in the work and that you are committed AF. But if you don't feel like you are where you want to be with food, this is what you need to understand. This is not my concept. This is Joe Dispenza's ideology. And if you don't know Joe Dispenza, he is incredible. I have read his books. I've listened to so many of his seminars. I've been listening to his stuff again because he has looked at the science of change. And he's looked at why people have such a hard time changing their lives. And this concept is going to open your eyes up to why you haven't created a different reality in this area of your life. And this is what it is. Your personality creates your personal reality. I'm going to say this again. Your personality creates your personal reality. So let's deconstruct that and really bring this down to earth so that you can see how this applies to your relationship with food, your relationship with your body. And once you understand this, you're going to understand how it applies to literally every aspect of your life. So your personality is how you think, how you act, and how you feel on a daily basis. It is your dominant frequency. It is your dominant way of being. So it makes sense that your thoughts, your feelings, and your behaviors all in one are going to create the reality that you experience on a daily basis. So if you're someone who will use the idea, the example of a relationship, like a romantic relationship, if you are someone who thinks really negatively about yourself, I'm unworthy, there's no good men out there, I'll never find a good relationship, what's the point of dating? So you have all of these very negative thought patterns around dating. And then how you feel is desperate or needy or hopeless, exhausted, these very negative, disempowering emotions. And how you act with dating is that either you go on dates and you are very needy, and people can feel that, right? We've all gone on dates where the person that's sitting across from you is just so desperate, and it's repelling. You don't want to be in that kind of energy. Or you just don't date because you think that there's no good men out there. Or you do date, but you go after people who are unavailable, right? So your actions when you are dating are not one of excitement, of possibility. They're very negative. If your thoughts, your emotions, and your behaviors around romantic relationships and dating are all negative, that's your personality there. Do you think that you're going to create a very positive personal reality around dating? You are going to find the love of your life. You're going to feel the most happy, the most blissful, and be in the healthiest relationship ever. Probably not, right? So your personality here will dictate a personal reality. And I've seen this time and time again in people who are in my life who have this very destructive or disempowering relationship with themselves and with dating and with romantic relationships. And they just keep finding themselves in the same exact pattern, just with different people, because they haven't changed themselves. And so what tends to happen in the society that we live in at large, the way that people are programmed, is when we don't have a personal reality that we like, if we're experiencing something in our lives, we're not making enough money, we're not happy at our job, we're not happy in our relationships, we're not happy in our friendships, we think that something outside of us has to change in order for us to experience something different, right? I just need to find the new partner. I'll break up with this person. I'll start dating someone else. I need to find new friends. I need to find the new job. I need to make more money, and then I'll feel differently. But what happens is that there's this quote, this saying that's wherever you go, there you are. Maybe you've heard this before. Wherever you go, there you are. And that means that you bring all of that baggage with you. You bring the negative thought patterns. You bring the disempowering emotions. You bring the destructive behaviors with you, whether you change the relationship or you change the job. Now, I'm going to caveat here that sometimes you are in a very destructive job or environment and you do need to get out of it. There's always going to be those situations. So I don't want to discount that. Absolutely not. But especially when we're talking about your relationship with food, wherever you go, there you are. And that's why we jump from diet to diet to diet. We have this idea that I just need to find the right diet and then things will change. And then I will feel differently. I will think differently and things will be easier. And then that never happens. So what we want to understand is if your personality, your dominant energy, your frequency, I like to use the word frequency because it just resonates with me, but you can use personality, you can use energy, you can use way of being as your term, whatever resonates with you. If that is what creates your personal reality, then it just makes sense that if you keep thinking the same way, if you keep acting the same way, feeling the same way, making the same choices, then everything stays the same in your life because nothing changes until you change. This explains why, if we're looking at the context of binge eating, disordered eating, emotional eating, or just chronic restriction and dieting, why most women tend to repeat the same patterns over and over and over again, year after year. Most of the women that I work with inside of Food Freedom Academy, it has been 5 years, 10 years, 20 years, 30 years of making this temporary progress, but then you fall back into your old ways of doing things and of being. Because most people focus on, what do I have to do differently, right? Tell me what to do. Tell me what to eat. Tell me what to change in terms of my behaviors. And so that's very surface level. So we'll use willpower. We'll have the food rules. We'll keep trigger foods out of the house. We'll do things differently. And just like a Band-Aid, it will work temporarily, but you can't wear a Band-Aid forever. And what happens and what gets people really frustrated, and I so get it because I have felt this way too, is that your thought patterns, the way that you think about food, the way that you feel about food, is still rooted in that old version of you who was binge eating. Your relationship with food, so the way that you think and feel about food, is still rooted in scarcity, urgency, lack, fear, guilt, pressure, shame. And so that personality around food will just continue to create your personal reality around food. And an exercise that I would encourage you to do that's going to bring so much clarity. I cannot even tell you. I did this for myself recently, and it opened my eyes up to like, oh yeah, of course I'm stuck. Of course I keep repeating the same personal reality in my life because this is the personality that I am operating from in this certain area of my life. So in order to change, we have to become conscious of how we think, of how we act, of how we speak, of how we feel, of how we are, the emotions that we live by. That's the only way that we can change, because awareness is the first step. Awareness of your current personality around food is your first step before you then know how to change it. The problem is, well, there's a couple of problems. Number one is that people don't want to do that. And I get it. Like, it's not the sexy work of sitting down and doing some introspection. It is much easier to have just people telling you what to do, count these calories, eat this way, because you feel like you are making more forward progress when you're actively doing things, even if the doing isn't going to get you very far. And doing the introspection and working on yourself and getting to know your own self, not as sexy. But I think the second reason that people aren't conscious of how they're operating in the world is because we are so busy. We are constantly distracted and overstimulated. I was having this conversation with Luke yesterday because a big goal of his in 2026 is to spend less time on his phone. And just to spend more time being bored. He started realizing that he's always doing something. If he's playing his game, his video game, and there's like a break or a pause, he'll pick up his phone. Like, he has a hard time just sitting without having those distractions. And I would say that that makes up the majority of the population. And I will not say that I'm immune to it. I make a big effort to bake in some boredom time every day. So in the morning when I go on my walk, I don't listen to anything, no podcast, no music, because I want to train my brain to be present and to not constantly seek that fast dopamine. But it is a conscious effort that I have to make every day. And most people fall into the trap of constant stimulation, of always either you're playing phone games or scrolling or having something in the background. And so what happens is that we are too distracted to tune into ourselves. We are too distracted to be able to be aware of the thoughts, the emotions, the actions that aren't serving us around food. So going back to this exercise that's going to bring so much clarity to you as to maybe why you're still stuck with food is to sit down with a pen and a piece of paper and to ask yourself, what is the dominant energy or frequency or personality or way of being that I have with food? So you'll write down the thoughts that you have around food, the emotions, the behaviors, and just spend some time writing down whatever comes up. And I did this exercise a couple of days ago. And you will see right there, just doing this exercise, why your personal reality around food isn't changing. Because I can bet with 99% accuracy that your dominant energy and the frequency that you have around eating or around body image or around exercise, like do this exercise with whatever area of your life that you feel stuck, is not the energy, the frequency, the personality of someone who has ease around food. So if I were to think about the person that I used to be with food and the energy that I used to have around food, some of the things that I would write down in the personality that I used to have was, I shouldn't be eating this. This is bad for me. This is going to make me gain weight. Food is the enemy. Some of the emotions were a lot of fear, anxiety, stress, guilt, shame. Some of the behaviors were under eating, only eating X amount of calories, skipping certain meals, not going out to dinner, looking at the menu ahead of time. So when you do this exercise, what it's going to do is shine a spotlight on the thoughts, the emotions, and the behaviors that are not serving the personal reality around food that you want. Another way to think about this so that this kind of seeps into your mind and is clear for you is you can ask yourself the question, the version of me or the version of anyone who has this very healthy, peaceful, sustainable, calm relationship with food, does she think this way? Does she feel this way? Does she act this way? Does she look at the menu ahead of time before going to the restaurant to see how many calories are in each meal and what she can eat when she gets there? No, she doesn't. But if I keep doing that, if I keep reinforcing that in my personality, well, it keeps creating a personal reality of someone who has a disordered relationship with food. And the thing about repeating the same thoughts and emotions and behaviors is that it just gets more and more hardwired in your brain. Because if you think about your neural pathways, a way that I like to explain it to my clients, it's like highways. And when you are used to driving on the same highway every single day, then you can start to do it without much effort. You know when you're going to work, you know exactly which exit to take, you know where to turn. Sometimes you end up driving and being so out of it that you get to work and you're like, wow, I was like kind of sleepwalking there because sleep driving. Because you get so good at driving the same road that because your brain operates on the law of least effort, it starts to do it automatically. Same goes with your personality. When you repeat the same thoughts, emotions, and behaviors every day, you start to do it without much awareness or effort. It starts to be automatic for you. And what happens is that as a result, because your personality creates your personal reality, you create the same personal reality with food without much effort. So going back to this question of why am I still struggling with food no matter how much work I am doing? The answer is that there are still aspects of your current way of being, your current thoughts, your current emotions, and your current behaviors around food that are more in alignment with someone who has an unhealthy relationship with food than someone who has a healthy relationship with food. I really encourage that you do the exercise that I talked about in this episode. It will bring so much clarity for you because, like I said, in order to change, we first need to become aware of the aspects of us, not with judgment, not with criticism, with curiosity and almost a sense of excitement. I know that when I do this exercise, I always feel really empowered because then you realize that there's nothing wrong with you. Like then you realize why you keep getting the same things in your life. And also you start to see what needs to change. So the question is not, what am I doing wrong? Because you could be doing all of the work and all of the right things. But the question is, how am I being on a daily basis? The thoughts, emotions, and actions, what personality am I emitting and energy am I coming from that keeps creating the same experience with food? Now, next week on January 20th, I'm going to be hosting a live free workshop where I'm going to go to the other side of things, which is then how do you change it? Once you recognize the aspects of the way that you're being that are not serving the reality that you want to create around food, how do you change it? How do you get from where you are to where you want to be, a life of food freedom, where you can listen to your body, where you don't feel controlled by your emotions or feeling the need to turn to food to numb it, where eating is easy and it's a non-issue? How do you get there? What is the bridge that's going to get you there? That's what I'm going to be talking about. I have been working on it for a couple of weeks and I'm just so incredibly excited. So if you are in the mood for transformation this year and you are in the mood to make 2026 your year of food freedom, please join us. It's going to be so fun, so transformative. You can sign up for free at sabrinamagna.com/2026-workshop. The link is also in the show notes for your convenience. I love you so much. If this episode was really valuable and helpful for you, send it to someone that you love. Because the thing is that this is something that you can apply in every area of your life. I use it all of the time. So whether someone in your life is struggling with work or their self-esteem or money, they can use this episode too. So send it to them and I will see you on the next episode. Bye, my friend. Thank you so much for listening to today's episode. If you found it valuable, I would love if you would share it with someone you know that could benefit. If you're loving the show, don't forget to subscribe over on Apple Podcasts so you don't miss a single episode. I really love hearing feedback from you, so please leave a rating and review over on Apple to help us get in the ears of more people who need it the most. Finally, come hang out with me on Instagram at Sabrina Magna Health for more educational content and get up close and personal with me. Thank you so much for being here, and I'll see you on the next episode.